لا 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 لا, لا بأس. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. How to develop oneself. Slow. How to build up one's self. Self-development. Correct? That's what, inshallah ta'ala, not our talk, but our mutual discussion with each other, inshallah ta'ala, will be on today. And hopefully we'll have some time to entertain or answer some questions. And perhaps we'll have some time to read a few beneficial points from one of my favorite books. And one of, I think, not the absolute, but one of the most beneficial books that you can find, in my humble opinion. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. All right. So inshallah ta'ala, if we can have a brother or a sister, a volunteer, a participant, please read the title once more. Can anybody read the title for me once more? Thank you, Sheikh. Very important, the power of words and the power of word play. Extremely important. The importance of words and playing on the words. And the scholars of Islam, they have given us a very beneficial principle that states, إِنَّ الْأَلْفَاظَ قَوَالِبُ الْمَعَانِي. إِنَّ الْأَلْفَاظ قَوَالِبُ الْمَعَانِي. The essence, the meanings, the spirit is found in the actual wording. Oftentimes people, they look at the spirit and they ignore the actual wording. And of course, there's some people, they stick to the wording and ignore the spirit. But actually paying attention to the words, looking at the words, as we did last night, right? I, A, R, separately and collectively. So what's the title, guys? Fadda. Building one's own foundation guided by Quran and Sunnah. So how many words do we have in number? How many? 10. First word is building, to build. What does it mean to build something? One's own foundation guided by Quran and Sunnah. All right. So how long has this masjid in this center been? When was it established? 1985. Yeah, the first one. The first one, no, this building specifically. This building, 2007, 2007 and 8. Perfect. We built it from the ground up? Yes. From the ground up. Yes. Perfect. And the previous building, from the ground up? Yes. As well. Yes. 2 buildings built and established from the what? From the ground up. Perfect. So, how many virtues are there in building something from the ground up? And how many challenges and problems are there in building something from the ground up? Instead of taking a building that's already been erected. There are virtues, there are pros and cons in both, correct or incorrect? So obviously building from the ground up, it's tailor-made. You make it how you want to make it. Big, small, room, so on and so forth. But of course, the stones that were used in making this synagogue or Catholic church or this auditorium, they don't make those stones anymore. The masons, the carpenters, the people that built and made this building in 1901 or 1830 or this, whatever the year may be, they're long gone. They made those by hand. Now everything is electronic, everything is measured, everything is prefabricated. So there's certain classic elements that you cannot get from building what? from the ground up, let alone the history and the nostalgia of rehabilitating an older building that's 100, 200, 300 years old. So there's virtue, there's pro and con in building from the ground up versus reconstructing, quote unquote, resurrecting, rehabilitating, and transforming the building. Can we all agree on this or not? We can agree? So therefore, when you're building something, sometimes you have to build from the ground up. And then other times, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to start from absolute scratch. The formula, the system, the blueprint is already there and it's solid, but the roof is damaged. The windows are too old. They don't hold good insulation. They weren't made for central air conditioning. They weren't made for central heat. They were made for this type of furnace or stove in this age, in this generation. The floor needs such and such. It needs to be, etc., etc. But the structure is what? It's solid, let alone these windows, these stones. This work is, you can never ever get that again. They don't make them like that anymore. That talent and skill is gone. Everyone understand this? So therefore, when we talk about building one's own building, oftentimes you don't have to start from scratch. And one of the tricks of the self, the nafs, and the tricks of the shaitan is getting you to think that everything about yourself is wrong and bad. And everything about your history and your past is wrong and bad. And that you have to build and recreate an entirely new identity, culture, and personality. That's a major trick. And Allah Azza wa Jal has clearly warned us, Ya bani Adam la yaftinannakum ash-shaytan. O sons of Adam, do not allow Satan to put you through fitan, as he did to your forefathers, your mother and father in paradise, taking them thereout, exposing their nakedness. And they realized that they had erred and made a mistake after it was what? It was too late. They covered their nakedness. They had disobeyed. They realized that we messed up, but it was too late. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He warns us not to recover. He's telling us, do not recover, but don't even fall victim. Everyone understand this? There's a lesson in someone that had to recover before you. Everyone understand? Someone was victimized. And you learn how to operate and maneuver because of what happened to them. So therefore, I'm not even going to allow it to what? Happen to me. Inna sa'ida laman wa'idha bighayrihi. As the narration states, the happy man is he who takes admonition from others. The one who learns from others. That's the smart person. That's the happy person. So therefore, one trick of the shaitan with regards to this topic, and we're just dealing with the word building right now, is getting you to think and feel that you have to recreate everything. You got to build everything from scratch. All right? That's first and foremost. Secondly, once your nafs or the shaitan gets you to think that and feel that, you're now in front of a seemingly unsurmountable challenge. And that is a mistake that most people make, thinking that they can recreate themselves and change themselves 100%, especially 30, 40 years into your life. A task which is almost impossible. And if it is possible, it comes with a great cost, a great sacrifice, and it's very difficult. And first and foremost is you don't necessarily have to change yourself. Accept who you are. Be one with who you are, but certain things you need to fix, like that building. There's no need to build from the ground up. There's no need to pay this or to get this on. And the building is perfect, it's classic, but some work is needed. So that's first and foremost. So with regards to building your foundation, your character, your personality, building your aqidah, so on and so forth, everything isn't needed from scratch. That's point number one. Everyone understand this? Secondly is one's own. One of the greatest tricks of the shaitan as well is getting you to focus and stay busy with others before yourself. Staying busy, being focused with other people's problems, their lives, before your own. It's a very old problem. It isn't something which is new. There are different forms and shapes, images and colors of this mindset. idolizing people, hero worshiping people, personalities, stars, athletes, politicians, heroes, and villains, in which you're so focused on that you neglect your own self and your own needs and your own people. And some of the pious predecessors, some of the Salaf al-Salih, may Allah have mercy upon them, they would say, إِنَّ مِنْ عَلَامَةِ إِعْرَاضِ اللَّهِ عَنِ الْعَبْدِ أَنْ يَشْغَلَهُ فِي مَا لَا يَعْنِيهِ. From the signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has turned away from the servant is that he busies the servant with other people, things that don't concern him. That's a dangerous sign that Allah has turned away from you and Allah is displeased with you. And you wake up and you go to sleep thinking about the next man, the next woman, the next person, the next people, the next country, the next village, the next tribe. That's a problem. And you'll never find a tribe and a tribal leader except that the main focus of that tribal leader is his own tribe. My set of tents and huts. That's my job to protect, to feed, to entertain, to discipline, to reward, to guide. So therefore, building others' legacies. All right? Is this not the case? And we spoke about this with regards to our youth getting caught up in gangs and drugs and the street life, the game, whatever you want to call it, right? And one of the harms and one of the vices of that lifestyle is that this person is getting you to build his own fortune. You work as a soldier, you work as a runner, you work as a this and a that. All of that money is going in whose pocket? He's giving you crumbs, just a little bit. Here, take this, buy yourself this, get this. But the chunk, the bulk of the money is going to who? You pushing somebody else's pack. If you want to, get down to it, you're getting his money. Did he come down? Who you think is going to be thrown under the bus, thrown to the wolves? Who think is going to be sacrificed? So you work all of those years in your life to find out that you were doing it for somebody else's success, for someone else's fortune. That's a big problem, and that's abuse and exploitation. And this is a major feature of any gang and any criminal organization. That's how things work. It's a food chain. You're working and slaving for this person to lie upon silk and to wear the silk. You're not wearing the silk. When something goes wrong, you're going to be the first person to suffer. And obviously, we live in this country, and many of us come from this background. And if we don't come from this background, we're influenced and impacted by that background. It's no different in Islam. I'm seeking knowledge, learning, and studying just to glorify this sheikh and that one and this one. That's a problem. I'm working hard for this community, ignoring my own community. I'm paying, donating, devoting my services for someone else's well-being instead of my own. I, as a teacher, as an imam, travel the world, but I don't teach my own children and my own family. That's a problem. So the concept of the necessity of building, the need of building, and the virtue of building, doing things with your own two hands. As the Prophet ﷺ was asked in the hadith, Ayyub kasbi atyab. What's the sweetest, what's the purest way of earning a living? What's the most tayyib way of earning a living? The hadith said, Amalu rajuli biyadihi wa kullu bay'in mabrurin. He said the work that a man's own hands produce and good transactions, bay' mabrur, in which the buyer and the seller have mutual consent and respect. It's good for me and it's advantageous for you. Bismillah, we shake on it. Good deal. A man's own handiwork, that which you build, that which you create, that which you put forth, is extremely important in the life of the Muslim to build, whether it's from the ground up or whether it's furthering or completing what was already built and established. But prioritizing yourself. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, Ibda biman ta'ul. If you want to give charity, if you want to give sadaqah, then let that charity and sadaqah be given to your family first and foremost. Let the dinar, the gold coin, let the guinea, let the shilling, let it be given to those whom are your dependents before anyone else. So building your own, qu anfusakum, save yourselves and then your family from the fire. The importance of building your own. And it's not about being stingy, and it's not about being selfish, but it's about prioritizing. And people, of course, unfortunately, different people try to establish their own and build their own. They're going to attack them, and they're going to accuse them, and they're going to play the moral high ground. Oh, you're only worrying about yourself? Or you're a nationalist? Or you're only worrying about your own people? You're only worrying about your own race? You're only worrying about the brothers need help too? It's a trick. It's a ply to get you to work for them, build them, their legacy, and you remain needy and hungry. It's a big problem. So building one's own, what's our next word? Foundation. A foundation. Oftentimes, that's all you have to do is build a foundation. Oftentimes. Sometimes you have to build more. But sometimes you just lay down the foundation. With Yarfa Ibrahimu, what does Allah say? That Abraham and Ismail, what were they doing? The qawa'id of the house. They laid down the foundation of the Kaaba. Laying down the foundation and praying and making dua for your progeny and offspring to come and complete your work. And no doubt someone is going to come and read about you and say, wow, they did this, they established this masjid, they went here, and then they're going to come along and finish your work because your time is limited. Your energy is limited. And the importance of establishing a foundation before anything else. And the foundation is so solid, so strong, oftentimes other things just fall into place. So building, working on, establishing, erecting, solidifying one's own foundation. I'm fundamentally sound in my Islam, my Aqidah. No one can come along and tell me and misguide me. I can never be hoodwinked with regards to the 5 pillars of Islam. With regards to the pillars of Iman. No one can come along and tell me different because I've studied the fundamentals and they're solid. And that's because I've worked on those fundamental principles. I've invested time. I've invested money. I've invested energy on solidifying my foundation. Can everybody say this? Before we talk about this and speak about this, is it fundamentally sound? On a personal level, on a masjid level, on an organizational level, this masjid right here, the fundamentals, are they established before the extra additional stuff? Is the building open? Can people come and pray? Can they make wudu? Can they relieve themselves before they make wudu? Is it safe? Is there someone to park? Basic sound fundamentals. The cover, the carpets, the paint, the fans, the this, the that, it all comes additionally. So there's some masjids, some places you go, the place is so pretty, so beautiful, but the masjid is locked. The salah, you can't even pray. Is this not the case? Or something wrong with the wudu station? It's like that's the basic fundamental purpose of the masjid. But it's so beautiful, it's dazzling. Something's off. And the same applies to knowledge. Many of us, we become overwhelmed with this person and this personality, and they have little clips and sound bites from that and this and this and that. You ask them the 5 pillars of Islam. Give me a basic explanation of the 5 pillars of Islam. Mention 1 hadith for every pillar. Mention 1 proof from the Quran for every pillar. Explain to me the 6 pillars of Iman. Give me 1 ayah from the Quran for every pillar of Iman. By heart. Not from a book, not from a tablet, by heart. They can't do it. But if you ask them about this controversial issue, this one, that one, this ruling, ikhtilaf, and that's a problem, right? And of course, is the concept of not only being ignorant or not only being fundamentally weak, but then speaking about others and talking about others. That's a problem. And it's something which isn't attributed to one race or one group. It's around the board. It's around the board and it's dangerous. So waking up every single day, the Prophet ﷺ says, كُلُّ النَّاسِ يَغْدُو فَبَاعِعُ نَفْسَهُ فَمُعْتِقُهَا أَوْ مُبِقُهَا. Is that when you wake up in the morning, you're responsible for your own soul, its emancipation, its success, or its ruin. That's the bottom line. Hassan al-Basri told the people, يَا بْنَ آدَمَ إِنَّكَ تَغْدُو وَتَرُوحُ فِي طَلَبِ الْأَرْبَاحِ فَلْيَكُنْ هَمُّكَ نَفْسَكَ فَإِنَّكَ لَن تَرْبَحَ مِثْلَهَا أَبَدًا. O son of Adam, you wake up in the morning seeking money, seeking goods, seeking fortune, buying and selling. فَلْيَكُنْ هَمُّكَ نَفْسَكَ. Let your biggest worry, your biggest concern be yourself. Because you'll never win something as valuable as your own soul. And as well, you'll never lose something as valuable as your own soul. It's the greatest prize, to gain or to lose. So me as a Muslim, I have to build, whether it's from the scratch, from day one, or whether I've already been blessed with some things by Allah. Before I was a Muslim, I was religious, a person may say. Before I was a Muslim, I was studious. Before I was a Muslim, I was business-minded. Before I was always a Muslim, before I became religious, I always was about, looking nice. Before I read the hadiths about looking nice and adorning yourself and how Allah is beautiful, right? So when you become a Muslim, or you're born a Muslim and you learn about the Sunnah, you learn about that which is correct, you don't have to build from what? From scratch. You already have a foundation. Versus the shaitan telling you, you got to start everything from the beginning, so on and so forth. I can speak on my own personal experiences in life. I was always a Muslim, alhamdulillah. Born and raised Muslim. My mother, my father, they had accepted Islam before we were born. So I was in a Muslim household. But of course, we didn't always know everything, what was right and correct, and studying this, and there's levels of development and evolution. So when I started learning and hearing about this and these brothers and this movement, this dawah overseas, and scholars and this and that and this and that, I was amazed. And then when I had adopted that and I wanted to be that, me trying to be studious, and things are very different now how they were. Obviously, many of you older brothers know in the 80s or the 90s, things were very, very, very different. Seeking knowledge, being studious, going overseas, making hijrah, that was a basic foundation of this dawah movement. That was the basic thing. Ignorance wasn't allowed. It's very different now. Who you know, who you associate yourself with, that's all it matters, for real. But back then it was about knowledge and development. Tarbiyah, tasfiyah, tarbiyah. Is this not the case? So when I came around, I saw all of these brothers studious, pens, thobes, short pants, studying, learning, sutra. Raf'ul Yadayn is like, whoa. But I always was studious. I loved to read books before I even knew about this, before I even heard about this. So my transition was what? Seamless. It was I didn't have to change myself. And I hit the ground running, taking off. And I'm saying it's not out of pride, but speaking about my personal experience, is that I didn't have to build everything from day one. I already had a foundation, and all I had to do was complete. And of course, if I was worrying about this one and that one and here and there, I wouldn't have focused on myself. I need to learn the Arabic. Not his Arabic is so good. Oh, mashallah, he's so knowledgeable. He's so righteous. But what about you? What are you learning? What are you benefiting yourself? He went overseas. Going overseas is so glorious. As a student of knowledge, I would hear his stories, wallahi. But I said to myself, I hear that, that's nice, but I'm trying to go overseas myself. No disrespect to nobody else, but I want to go overseas and work on myself, so on and so forth. So that's building one's own foundation. What's our next word? Guided. What does the word guided mean? Laser guided. Has a destination. What else is guided? Straight, not crooked, all right? You're backing up, you're parking, right? To show you is your wheel crooked or not, right? What else? When we say guided, a path, a runway. You're supposed to be within a line, direction, something else though. We're not talking about religion or faith or Islam, we're talking about the word guided. Taking you. You have the highlighted lines, you have the sensor, you have this, you have that, it beeps, it makes noise, but you are still what? In control. You have to operate the vehicle. Is this not the case? But it's automatically guided. It's there, but you still have to have somewhat, some hand in it. Is this not the case? But it's laid out for you. It's like tracing something. People trace things better than others. It's already lined out. All you got to do is just color it in, fill it in. A coloring book. Some coloring books are very sloppy. Even though the lines are already there, you don't have to draw nothing yourself. But there are levels of something guiding you. So the Quran and Sunnah, you have to put in the necessary effort. You have to put in the sweat, the muscle. You have to put in the time yourself. But the outline, the guideline, the lane, the mean path, the red, green lines are there for you. And this is the concept of fitrah. As the Prophet ﷺ tells us, and as it states in the Quran, the fitrah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ. Establish your face, turn your face. The fitrah. Every child is born and established upon the fitrah. The fitrah doesn't mean that a person is born and he knows everything about Islam and that he's going to do everything correct in Islam and he's going to obey and submit 100%. That's not what the fitrah means. It doesn't mean that. And of course, there are other texts and other hadiths which seem to be conflicting or polemic, contradictory to that, such as the famous narration of Abu Dharr, Hadith Qudsi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلُّكُمْ ضَالٌ إِلَّا مَنْ هَدَيْتُهُ فَاسْتَهْدُونِي أَهْدِكُمْ. All of you are astray, except those whom I have guided. Seek my guidance, and I will guide you. So the text, this is Allah speaking in this hadith, every human being, every son of Adam is by default what? Dal. Whether you translate it as misguided, astray, unaware, al-muhim is not straight path. Except for, right? And then Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, فَاسْتَهْدُونِي. Seek the guidance from me. You have to seek it, and I will give it to you, showing you that there's an effort that is placed. So the fitrah, many scholars, they say, it's the natural inclination towards good, along with the natural ability to take and follow that which is bad and evil. So you have a tablet. You can download things on this tablet. You can take pictures with it. You can read with it. You can play games with it. You can use it for so many things, right? But the maker of the tablet will tell you, this is best for such and such, such and such. It is more suited for you to do this with it. Video, editing, typing, you can, but it's more of such and such. Is this not the case? Or a vehicle, a car, an SUV, a Jeep. It can be luxury. It has a sunroof. It has a moonroof. It has leather seating. It has the piping and the leather. It has the wood grain, etc., etc. But it's more of a rugged car. It's more for off-road, out-track. You get what I'm trying to say? The maker of the car is telling you it can do both. But at the same time, it's more leaning to, and vice versa. Got four-wheel drive, but it's more of a city car. It's lower. The chassis is like this. It's made for that, so on and so forth. So that's what the fitrah is. It's not necessarily 50-50 or 100%. But for lack of better expression, the fitrah is more of the good is stronger. And the leaning to the good is what? Is more. Like a right hand and a left hand. Most people have more strength in their right hand, or if they're southpaw. Only a few people are, you understand? Only a few boxers in history had that type of power where they can knock you out with the left or the right. And that's what made them such great boxers. But most of them had more power in what? One hand. So to say that the fitrah is the natural leaning towards the khair, the acceptance of khair. But at the same time, you can download whatever you want on this tablet and listen to and watch whatever you want to. But it's best for Quran and Quranic programs, so on and so on and so forth, to read on. You guys get the point I'm trying to make? So the guidance doesn't mean that you take your foot off the pedal, absolutely. The guidance doesn't mean that you have no effort and no, you have to work. But it's easier. Power steering. You still have to do what though? You got to turn the wheel and control the wheel. It's not going to turn by itself, but it isn't the same as, you understand? So the Quran and Sunnah is to make things easy for you. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He clearly tells us that we will make it easy for you. We have made it easy for you. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He tells us, those who have the taqwa, those who give, we will do what? فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. So Allah will make things easy, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to put the effort in yourself and be mindful of it yourself, because the wheel will tilt too much if you let it go. Last but not least, Quran and Sunnah. The guidance of the Quran and Sunnah, the knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. How can you get into that treasure trove? What keys, what tools are needed to benefit from the Quran and Sunnah? Common sense will tell you, you want to study a book, you want to read a book, you want to learn about the history of a book. First thing you're going to ask is, when was the book originally written? And most importantly, in what language was the book authored? That's just common sense. You're reading an English translation from Latin, from French, from ancient, this language and that language. Who was the first person to translate this book into English? So learning from the Quran and Sunnah, no doubt about it, one of the most important tools is understanding the language of the Quran and Sunnah. And everyone isn't going to be a scholar. Everyone is going to be erudite. Everyone is going to be a grand master of Arabic. I know myself. But there are things that you can learn. And there are things that you can apply yourself to with regards to learning the language of Quran and Sunnah. So first and foremost is Quran. Yani maqru'. The book that is recited. So the Quran isn't a book just to be silent. It isn't a book that's just to be still, but it's a book that is supposed to be what? Because of the word, the meaning of the word. And Sunnah. What is Sunnah? Law? Practice? Or is it a way? A lifestyle? A mindset? A culture? How to govern yourself? So the basics of the Arabic language, every single Muslim learning a word a day, a sentence a day, a phrase a day, which helps you with the tafsir. So when you're praying behind the imam in the masjid, and the imam recites, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا وَالنَّهَارِ, etc., etc., you understand some basic things. وَالشَّمْسِ, any surah in the Quran, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins, in that same style is Allah swearing. وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ وَهَكَذَا. So you know how it's starting off. And for Allah to swear by a thing, it must mean that thing is important. It must mean that thing is looked at as being insignificant. It must mean that thing is available to men. Every man benefits from the sun, from the sky, from the stars. But how many people appreciate it and value it and know what it really means, and what it really signifies, and what it really symbolizes? So the Arabic leads to tafsir. The tafsir leads to reflection, and reflection leads to better spirituality. And you really benefit from the prayer. You get the point that I'm trying to make? So if you want to talk about being guided by the Quran and Sunnah, building a foundation based off of Quran and Sunnah, developing yourself based off of Quran and Sunnah, then the first thing is knowledge of Quran and Sunnah. And the first aspect of knowledge of anything is language. That's crucial, that's critical. We learn this from history. Those who explored countries and lands, colonized them, whatever they did, good or bad, the very first thing they needed was a local guide. Someone who spoke the language of the people. Someone who can interpret what we want to say, what we want, what we're looking for to the people. And without the linguists, there would have been no conquest. Mexico wouldn't have fallen to Cortez if it wasn't for that woman who had the ability to convey his ideas and messages to them. Language is utterly powerful. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jal began the revelation speaking about reading and reciting and writing. Iqra, read. Allah's first commandment wasn't shirk and tawheed. It wasn't about murder and gambling and alcohol. It was about reading, knowledge, science. Wake up. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentioned Allama bil qalam. Allah taught man with and by the pen, the language. So the concept of the words that are being said to you, of the Quran and Sunnah, if you don't understand anything from them, your reflection is going to be limited. Your understanding is going to be limited. And most importantly, if you don't understand the language, it's going to be hard for you to build your own. You're going to be taking someone else's interpretation. You're going to be taking someone else's twist, good or bad. You're going to be taking someone else's simplification. I want to study about Spain and Portugal and the history of Spain and Portugal. I want to learn about this one and that one and this conquest and Ferdinand and Isabella, etc., 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 etc. And all of my studies about Spain and Portugal are in English. How far can I really go? How many people who speak and write in English hated and envied the Spanish and the Portuguese? So until I learn a little bit of Spanish and a little bit of Portuguese, my understanding of that is going to be at best limited, let alone flawed and tainted. So knowledge is the foundation, and the foundation of knowledge and the beginning of knowledge, the key to that knowledge is the what? There's no doubt about that. And the shaitan, as we said before, we can't stop talking about him. We can't just, give him a break. We have to go back to that. Shaitan is going to play games, and he's going to play tricks on you. From those games and those tricks, his Arabic is too hard and too difficult. Don't even try. It's a waste of time. Trust me. You're too old. From the games and the tricks that the shaitan is going to play, well, you're Muslim. You're Turkish. You're black. You're African. You're Asian. You're not Arab. That's not your culture. That's not your language. They don't like you. They have prejudices against you. They look down upon you. Why would you want to learn their language and their culture? You have your own identity. Islam, not Islam. Islam has got nothing to do with Arabs. It's a trick of the shaitan. And we know that all tricks have to have some piece of what? Truth. Nothing, no lie is sold that has some percentage of truth in it. You aren't from this background. There are problems. There is prejudice. There is race, and so on and so forth. But the Quran came down in what language? Whether you like it or what? The Prophet ﷺ spoke. He talked. He taught in what language? Whether you what? Like it or not. So the shaitan, he's going to get you to focus on the other external things, and he's going to get you to miss why I'm actually studying Arabic. To be a better Muslim. Not just to be Middle Eastern. That's a trick of the shaitan. Another trick of the shaitan with regards to learning Arabic is getting people to focus on grammar and grammatical rules and ajurumiyya and qatr al-nada and fulan and i'rab and this and that and the complexities of Arabic without establishing a good foundation. Basic words, basic phrases. Another trick of the shaitan, yarhamakallah, is to start a class and to stop a class. How many brothers start an Arabic class and then they stop? They jump to another teacher. This book is too hard. This program is too difficult. Or I don't like the way he teaches. Or I'm going to call you one day, uncle, for Arabic. And then a week goes by, what? No class. That's a trick of the shaitan. And you can't study, you can't learn a foreign language that doesn't have Latin letters. It's not like learning German or French or something. The letters are the same. Even the pronunciation is different, but at least the same letters. You're learning a whole different set. You have to apply yourself properly. So the moral of the story is, in order to build one's own foundation, in order to establish one's own solid foundation, guided by Quran and Sunnah, he needs knowledge. And the doorway to that knowledge is the Arabic language. And the doorway to the Arabic language is to take your time. فَسَالَتْ أَوْدِيَةٌ بِقَدْرِهَا. Allah tells us in the Quran that valleys flow according to what? Their due measure. Not too much water and not what? Not too little. So you have to take your time. You have to pace yourself. And once you do learn Arabic, or as you are learning Arabic, you have to pace yourself with the knowledge. You can't read the whole Sahih Bukhari in one day. You can't read all of Ibn Kathir in one day. You have to take your time. You have to slow down, as Allah Azza wa Jal has commanded us to be people who are Rabbaniyin. As in Abdullah ibn Abbas and others, they would say, هُوَ الَّذِي يُعَلِّمُ النَّاسَ صِغَارَ الْإِلْمِ قَبْلَ كِبَارَ الْإِلْمِ. Teaching the people the small things before the big, heavy things. So teaching yourself, studying in a class, studying with the scholar, studying with the teacher, you have to pace yourself. You have to slow down. You have to take small bites. You have to manage your studies. And then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, through time, through consistency, by Allah's barakah, you'll be amazed and you'll be shocked at what you can learn from Quran and Sunnah by yourself, let alone with others. You'll be amazed. So therefore, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, this is how to build one's own foundation guided by Quran and Sunnah. Kutiba alaykumul qitalu wa huwa kurhul lakum. Allah says fighting is prescribed upon you, even though you dislike it. You want to live, you want to grow old and fat and prosperous, but you have to have the fighting spirit. So you cannot learn and you cannot establish your foundation, let alone others, unless you fight yourself with 4 things. 4 times in which you're battling and fighting yourself. Number 1, you have to fight and battle yourself to learn. Learning properly, learning consistently. Number 2, you have to fight yourself to act upon what you have learned. It's easy to learn, it's easy to memorize, but now let's see you put it into practice. Translate it into deeds. It sounds good, the revolution, this and that, but let me see you do it now. Number 3, you have to fight yourself, which is something which is innate in you. وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ. Yani Allah tells us that man is greedy by nature, stingy by nature. He's selfish by nature. He always wants good for himself by nature. So I went overseas to Medina. I studied in Medina. I graduated in Medina. If you want to learn, if you want to benefit, you go yourself. Why should I have to teach you? Why should I sacrifice my time and my comfort, my family, just for you to learn? Go learn yourself. That mindset and that attitude isn't the mindset and the attitude of one who's fighting himself, of the warrior. You have to call others now. You have to invite others. You have to spread that knowledge. You have to share that knowledge. You have to hand that knowledge to others as it was handed to you. And the 4th and final level of fighting oneself is to fight yourself upon the blood, sweat, and tears. The unpleasant realities of learning, studying, and giving da'wah. People are going to make fun of you. People are going to reject you. People are going to hate on you. People are going to make gossip and scandal about you. Some people are going to try to physically harm you and physically stop you. They're going to be people that are going to have stereotypes and prejudices against you. Right? Let alone your own laziness, sickness, family problems, financial problems, so on and so forth. So you have to fight yourself to learn. You have to fight yourself to implement what you have learned. You have to fight your own self to give da'wah, to spread the message. And you have to fight yourself to be patient and not to quit. You can't give up. You can't just stop and quit because the people didn't listen to you. Or I tried and it didn't work. Or the program didn't work. It doesn't work like that. Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, how long did he teach his people? It's a very long time. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, how long did he fight with them? Banu Israel, over and over again, in Egypt, outside of Egypt. They were delivered from Pharaoh. They still disobeyed. They still rejected. They still wanted to do otherwise. And that's why he told the Prophet ﷺ he asked him about the prayers. How many prayers does your ummah have to make? The 50 is too much. And the reason why I know it's too much is because I've dealt with what? Banu Israel. I have life experience. So on and so forth. So the moral of the story is, these, inshallah ta'ala, are some of, not all, the most important theoretical points of the title. And those last 4 are some of the practical ways. Right? Take your time, learn, pace yourself, slow down, stick with your teacher, be loyal to your teacher, never quit, never drop out. Reading a book 3 times is better than reading 3 books. Consistency, patience, and pacing yourself. Applying yourself and sacrificing. And anyone who tells you that you can learn Arabic for free in the comfort of your own home without giving up, then he's lying to you. You have to give up something. No pain, what? No gain. لا يستطاع العلم براحة الجسد. You cannot get knowledge by chilling. Chilling and knowledge, oil and water. They don't mix. You got to sacrifice for anything good in life, let alone the highest prize, paradise, which we ask Allah to give us. These are some words, some food for thought, nothing more. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to critically reflect and respond. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah ta'ala, if the brothers have questions or the sisters have questions, inshallah, please don't feel shy. Bidnillahi ta'ala, that's why we're here. If you have anything that you don't understand or you want to ask about, the floor is open. There's no such thing as a dumb or stupid question. And being shy when it comes to learning and asking a question is another trick of the shaitan. And as some of the pious predecessors would say, "Man raqa wajhuhu, raqa ilmuhu." If your face is too soft and tender, your knowledge will be soft and tender. If you're too shy or too, noble to ask, or I don't want to be embarrassed or look dumb, that's fine. Then you'll be what? You'll remain ignorant. You'll remain ignorant. And others, as others would say, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَذُقْ ذُلَّ التَّعَلُّمِ سَاعَةً تَجَرَّعَ مِنْ كَأْسِ الْجَهْلِ طُولَ حَيَاتِهِ. It says, he who doesn't taste the bitterness of learning for 1 day, 1 hour, will perpetually drink from the cup of ignorance. Think how deep that line is, how profound that is. ذُلْ التَّعَلُّمِ. Humble yourself. Martial arts, right? The real martial arts overseas. The sensei, the master says, get on your knees. What? Let me see your obedience. Hit you with a stick. Treat you like a dog. It's not just about his ego, but it's about breaking the pride within you. So if you really want to learn that martial art, you really want to, study there, you're going to do what? Talk back, fight back? This short, old, frail-looking old man, or you're going to take it? It's humiliation, it's disgrace. But it's only for what? For an hour, for a day, for a week, for a year. And then inshallah ta'ala, he opens up that knowledge to you. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَذُقْ ذُلَّ تَعَلُّمِ سَاعَةً تَجَرَّعَ. He will keep drinking and swallowing and gulping from the cup of ignorance for the rest of his life. So shyness, pride, these things, they have nothing to do with knowledge. Two types of people that would never learn, one who's shy and one who is too proud. So this is basic psychology of seeking ilm, right? And from that is, I don't want to ask a question because people want to laugh at me or they're going to think I'm stupid or dumb. You don't know that. You're asking that simple-minded question, so on and so forth, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.